if I'm putting on that NFL GM hat and knowing that potentially a Raiders guy and what they're trying to create over there with Tom and everybody, they want a guy that's not going to make mistakes.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're going Mendoza as a GM in the NFL. You're going Mendoza as your pick if you had to go for it. Between the two of them.
Between the two of them for sure.
I'm Ndamukong Suh, and welcome to No Free Lunch, where we talk to experts and athletes about how the most successful people in sports manage their money and grow their wealth.
Big Dog Danny, what's going on, boss man?
We back in Houston, H-Town officially.
H-Town, let's go.
Yeah, man. I hope the move went well. And this week, college football came to an end. I know I'm a college football guy. I love the NFL, but I love college football. And with the game happening this week, I wanted to talk about some of the biggest winners this year, from players to programs, and who's actually earned some money this season.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of people that have earned some money, a lot of interesting moves. I think there's going to be a lot of traction, but a lot of chaos from all of this, man. It's interesting how this NIL and CFP stuff is just coming to a full head, and the bubble is yet to burst.
Yeah, feels like something's got to change, but we got our boy Jabari here to talk about some of the biggest deals and players and give some recaps of what the season was and who's making some money this off season, because there's a lot of money moving around.
Yeah, man. Jabari knows where all the chicken is lying. If not, if he doesn't, he's gonna find it for sure. So, man, let's get right into it right here on No Free Lunch. Jabari Young, what's going on, boss man? Long time no see. How was the holidays and the new year so far?
Man, Sue, first of all, man, Happy New Year to you and the family. I hope 2026 is going well so far. And you know what? The holidays, they were restful. You always get a chance to spend time with family, and have my aunt come in from Texas. And so it was good. It was just too short, though. You know what I mean? You always want it to be a little longer. But, listen, I cannot front, man. It just felt good to just put the computer down and not do nothing. Like the phone, the laptop, I was sitting there playing Madden with my uncle, man. It felt great.
Man, that's good. I wholeheartedly agree with you. It's nice to take a little bit of a break. I don't know how much of a break I got, because mine went transitioning from work to playing cops and robbers with my boys in the backyard. So
you never get a break, man. As a football player as well, now you're an analyst. You're football, and we know this sport has went from the fall to winter to all year round. So you never get a break, man. You got to retire completely from everything.
Yeah, that is true. But it's interesting, though, because you mentioned football and college football. Obviously, they just are wrapping up this ultimate season. The Hoosiers do an amazing job and have a Cinderella season. But ultimately, I think there's just so many different dynamics that are going on in college football, not only from the pay scale to the transfer portal to everything above and below. It's just a lot of chaos, in my opinion. Where do you see ultimately this world of college football going? And I think it's in a lot of disarray, to say the least.
Yeah, well, first of all, man, listen, I cannot start any college football conversation without congratulating you, my brother, inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Congratulations. Well deserved. I want to ask you now, because, we can call you a Hall of Famer, college level. Now, how does it feel? Before I even talk college football, I have to salute to you, obey, bow, salute, obey, do whatever you want. You're a College Football Hall of Famer, man. How does that feel to say that you're amongst that class?
Man, it feels good, to be honest with you. It's a true blessing. I owe a lot of credit to not only my teammates, but my family and the state of Nebraska. I mean, those guys and people supported me through and through. And I got an inkling of this information coming across last fall of being potentially, I believe they called it a first ballot Hall of Famer in college football. Yeah. So an amazing class as well. I mean, Aaron Donald, another elite DT going in this particular class. So it's a great group to go into. So I'm excited to hopefully celebrate with many, many people that are not only teammates, but friends, family that have always been there to support me. So excited for it. It's shared with everybody, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, listen, and again, man, congrats. But to follow up and answer your question, I mean, the game has totally changed since you were on that defensive line playing at the highest level. First of all, listen, the college football, college sports in general is still in disarray until you get complete uniformity across the all levels of college sports, whereas, it's equal from an NIL standpoint. It's going to be chaos. I try not to pay attention to too much NIL stuff because it completes the wild, wild west. Every deal is different.
Yeah.
You got one university suing a kid now. It's getting to a point where it's still the wild, wild west. And, once Washington, D.C. gets their act together, hopefully in Congress, they can, come up with a plan to help solve it, where I think we'll put college sports in a better place. But that's for a different day, a different argument. I love what I saw at the college football level of the national championship. Listen, I'm no college football aficionado like yourself, but, when it comes down to enjoying it at the highest of levels, I have. And so I like to flip the script on you, because from my standpoint, you got a guy like Tom Brady there. From my standpoint, a guy like Fernando Mendoza had to be the winner of the entire season, right? The guy executed at the highest of levels, and he created a legacy for himself. As you know, right? You know this, Sue. You can walk in Nebraska right now. There's no one that around town that probably won't know who you are. You get free ice cream. You get a free car. That dude has it made in Indiana for the rest of his life, no matter what happens in the NFL. He won the season. He won it. That was just an elite performance from both guys. Carson Beck was great as well, but I love what I saw from Fernando Mendoza, and I think that he's the winner of the college football season, and I think he's going to, that's going to show in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I've started to research him a little bit more, and obviously throughout the playoffs, seeing what he's been able to do. He destroyed each and every single team that he showed up against, and primarily watching that Oregon game, being from Oregon, supporting that organization, but seeing them and how they struggled. But obviously, I think something's interesting enough. That roster, if I'm not mistaken, is on an average age of 23 years old. I think that's an unfair advantage, but they're within the rules at the end of the day. And Fernando, if I'm not mistaken, is a 22-year-old senior that is now in an ability to be able to go into the NFL draft being the number one pick potentially. I think that's smart. I think what they created was experience, and that's one thing you cannot refute. If you have the experience, you can execute, you're most likely going to have an opportunity to win.
Yeah, and listen, again, when you make the passes, as a defensive lineman, man, you let me know what you saw, right? Because I'm watching Fernando Mendoza make passes. Obviously, you got to make the catch as well. But this dude seems so poised in the pocket. Again, Beck was poised as well. Threw that interception, didn't see that high coverage right there. But you can't fault him for that, because I feel like, if he probably read that a little better, Miami may have won that game, because the drive he had put together before, I saw nothing but poise. It's very rare that you see a guy with the national championship on the line stand there so poised as a defensive lineman. Like, how are you adjusting? What did you see from these two guys, and especially from Fernando Mendoza? And I only ask you this, Sue, because, I got to share a secret with you.
Okay.
When I'm amongst my friends, I act like the analyst, and I steal everything that you tell me on this show, and I pretend like I know it all. So I need you to be correct with this, okay? You got a GM hat on, right? Tom Brady calls you up and says, Sue, you're my guy. You've sacked me plenty of times before. What do you see from these two guys? Which one do you like the most?
I think, again, it goes back to the experience side of things. I would say Mendoza is the leader in that space, just because what he did was he executed on all cylinders, and he allowed the game to come to him versus needing to have the show, or for lack of better words, be somebody that is having to force the issue. And I think in college football, and especially why Indiana had that edge because of experience, that experience creates non-mistakes. And how do you capitalize on other people's mistakes? And that's what Indiana did throughout the season. They capitalized on other people's mistakes and didn't make mistakes themselves. So, and that's honestly what pro football is at the end of the day. You got the highest and best athletes. Yes, you have some unfair advantages of folks that are just elite and you can't stop them. But at what particular point in time, especially from a Patriot way, and if I'm putting on that NFL GM hat and knowing that potentially a Raiders guy and what they're trying to create over there with Tom and everybody, they want a guy that's not going to make mistakes. And eventually you turn that guy into not making mistakes, but also now he's putting teams in bad situations and understanding where they made the mistake to then take advantage of that.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're going Mendoza as a GM in the NFL. You're going Mendoza as your pick if you had to go quarterback.
Between the two of them. For between the two of them, for sure. And I think there's some intangible pieces that I'd obviously love to have more time and energy around them to be able to figure that out, see what type of people they are as well.
Yeah. I'm going to use a basketball analogy, man, because, I know when I covered the San Antonio Spurs, I would always ask scouts amongst that team what programs they always look at the most.
By the way, your Spurs got destroyed last night.
They did. Yeah, by the time people hear this, though, I hope that those Spurs, they come back and they destroy whichever NBA team you like. Because it seems to be a rivalry going on to us because with the Cowboys and the Lions, I noticed that, Sue. I really did. I saw that.
No rivalry with teams that are one Dallas is irrelevant and Houston is just was the better man last night.
Listen. Putting on your limp, but your GM hat again, because I feel like when you look at the college football season as a whole, we analyze players a lot, right? Scouts, that's what they get paid for. But from a program standpoint, because again, I was always asked the Spurs, what programs did they look at the most when it comes to recruiting guys? Because, programs have a lot to do with it, right? They do. And so I know Villanova was one of them for San Antonio. They love Michigan, like Tom Izzo, Michigan State. And so it was those type of programs where they saw the coach had put their imprint on it and, the program was just well run. That's where they went to recruit guys at. What programs, now that college football season is over, do you think benefited the most when it comes to the NFL and maybe from an exposure standpoint outside of Indiana because they won a national championship?
That's an interesting question, and I don't know if I have the right answer to tell you which program is best translated to the NFL. You would want to say all the CFP championship contenders would be of the most, but ultimately you got to understand each and every single ethos of those head coaches and how they operate and how they build things. You think about it from a standpoint of like, all right, did they build this offense for the success of what they're really good at and what that player's good at, or did they build this as a factory as you would kind of go back to the old days of Alabama? This is the way we do stuff. Do you fit into this program or not? And from that standpoint, so ultimately, I think I'm looking for intangible pieces. Can this player play at this particular level? Do they have all the tools? And how coachable are they? And what adjustments and trials and tribulations have they gone through? So I'm not necessarily looking at the program that they came from. I'm looking at what sets them apart and how they've learned throughout the combination of their years to be able to say, all right, when you get to the pro level, depending on what coach you go to, whether you, from a defensive perspective, you go to a 4-3 system, a 3-4 system. Like I came originally, quote unquote, from a 3-4 system in Bo Pelini. But I flourished in a 4-3 system in the NFL. But that was a changing of how I learned to play in a 6-month span of being in the NFL. Now, I can play in both systems. It doesn't make a difference. I went and won a championship in technically a 3-4 system under Todd Bowles. So ultimately, it really doesn't matter. Can you plug and play this particular athlete? It's not so much where they came from and what they learned from. Yes, it helps, but ultimately, whatever they're learning, some of it you have to strip back out. So I want as raw talent as possible, but they have certain abilities to be able to adjust and adapt. Because truthfully, in the NFL, every 3 to 4 weeks, you're changing your defense, you're changing your offense. How do you adjust and adapt? And do you have the capacity and ability to do that?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I said outside of Indiana, and I don't want to, piggyback on the national championship game, but me personally, I can't see a program that benefited more, than Miami. I know they lost the game, but that program, I mean, they've done it all season, but on a national championship level, proved that they're back. Think about all the years they were relevant, and think about the history, the legacy of that. You see Ray Lewis on the sideline, you see Michael Irvin on the sideline, and they walked away disappointed. But still, I feel like that program is like back again. And what kid, the only thing about Indiana, and they benefited a lot. My only thing is that will people still want to go there? And that's why I say from a recruiting standpoint, because when you're a recruit, right? I know you went to Nebraska, Sue, but when you had to choose, right? How many kids do you think are going to go to Nebraska, Indiana type when you got South Beach calling you Miami, right? Like, that's why I say I feel like Miami has really, really benefited because they show, hey, listen, we're not just some destination school like, we probably been represented over the years. We're back to being that national championship elite level school. And I feel like, man, they're going to just get a flurry of talent going down there now.
So for me, in the true perspective, yes, you're talking about cities and comparisons of Lincoln, Nebraska to Miami, the city of Miami. And funny enough, I had the ability to go to Miami. I chose not to go to Miami. And they were
Why did you choose that?
I'm going to explain to you. Top 5. They were one of my top 5 schools that I wanted to go to. Ultimately, Miami, Coconut Grove, I could not see myself flourishing from an educational standpoint in totality at that university. Plus, they didn't have engineering at that school. So that put them off the map for me. And I think when you have, again, from a notoriety perspective, NIL, I think there's some great things. But ultimately, I think as a bigger opportunity at a university like Nebraska or Indiana, it's just knowing how to, as a young adult, and I say a young adult because they become kids to being young adults and student athletes, how do you intertwine not only in the schooling aspect, but also the community aspect and working with those boosters? I mean, all day I would go to Indiana because I have access to some of the best boosters and most successful people in the world. Yeah. Same thing in Nebraska. I mean, if I didn't go to Nebraska, I wouldn't have a relationship with Warren Buffett.
Yeah. That's a good point because, starting off that conversation, again, I kid, but it brings me up to another point. I have a friend of mine who lives down in New Mexico. And we were talking a while ago and he says, man, you know who's a star down here? And I said, man, who? He says, you would never guess it. But, man, he walks around town and, people always see him and they speak. And, I mean, this guy he's a big celebrity. I say Kenny Thomas, the former forward of the NBA who played down that way. And this is where you go to those small town schools like in Nebraska, like Indiana, where I started this conversation off, where I'm like, man, Fernando Mendoza, no matter what happens, is going to be a star in Indiana. It's not any place that he can't go because of what he just gave that state as a whole, as a college, football state as well as a sports state. But as a whole, as well as that university, he is set for life. So I get it, right? I get it. But I still feel like Miami, they definitely benefited, as a whole. Looking at the coaches, right? Is there anyone that surprised you on the NCAA that maybe no one is talking about? I mean, obviously, Indiana coach, Kirk Getty, he's going to get all of the praise because of what he just delivered. But is any other coach that's really surprised you that you say, hey, listen, watch out for that guy and as well as watch out for that program?
I mean, I'd be remiss not to mention Lane Kiffin. I think there was a lot of backlash and issues with his transfer from Ole Miss to LSU, but I think him going to that program, and that's really LSU is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So if you really sit back and look at that, he has to take that job. And I think a lot of people, as the dust settle, realize that. I think he's going to have an unfair advantage at LSU. And I think he's an elite coach. He's going to find somewhere to get that organization back to where they want to be. And so I think that'll be interesting, especially coming off of Brian Kelly, which I never really saw the fit there with Brian Kelly and LSU. It was just an odd mixture in my opinion, from that standpoint. So I think there's some he's a starlight. I want to see Dan Lanning and his organization take it to another level. And I think they're right on the cusp to be able to do that, and it's just a matter of time for them to fine-tune some aspects. They've been too close too many years in a row, and again, I think the portal hurt them. I think some injuries in previous years have hurt them. I think they're gonna tighten up the screws up there in Oregon.
You don't think the Lane Kiffin at LSU was another Jimbo Fisher playing out when he went to Texas A&M? I remember when that signing happened and everybody in Texas, I was living out there at the time, it was like Jimbo Fisher was the next big thing. He was still supposed to deliver the state, like bring Texas A&M back. And it turned out to be a big, giant bust, right? You don't feel like Lane Kiffin's going to go down there and just, has all these expectations, you just come up short?
I mean, it'll remain to be seen. I'm a little hard pressed to believe that because I think in this day and age, LSU and that organization and really that entire state is going to rally behind him and prove that he was the right decision to be able to make that, because they've been behind the 8 ball for so many years and almost close to a decade, and they're used to winning.
Yeah, but everywhere Lane Kiffin goes, it seems to be all of this promise. And like the results, where's the national titles? Right? Like, I think that's what I'm talking about.
I agree. I mean, he hasn't been able to get there just yet. But, I mean, Ole Miss was a product of what he created. You don't think he can't get better athletes and better opportunities at LSU if he was able to do that at Ole Miss?
Indiana proved that there's no excuse. Okay, they just won their first national championship. I'm sure Ole Miss has way better resources in the football level than Indiana, and yet Indiana did. So I feel like that's why I love what just happened in college football, because Indiana has proven that I don't care where you go, all of that big time school booster, resource nonsense, cut it out, right? It is, if you play football the right way, if you put a good system in, you'll win games. NIL money will follow after that. I'm not buying the whole Lane Kiffin and LSU thing. I'm not. I think he's going to go down there and be a big fraud. I do. I love his dad and Monty Kiffin. That Tampa 2 defense in Tampa, I loved Monty Kiffin as a defensive coordinator under Tony Dungy. So I root for the Kiffins. I just don't think it's going to work out in LSU, since you brought it up. So I'm going to flip it back on you because, Indiana's coach, Cignetti, just signed that 8-year, $93 million contract. Put your AD hat on now, right? Take your GM hat off, put your AD hat on. How do you make sure that this head coach, who just led you to the first national championship in your school's history on the football level, comes back and stays there forever and retires as your Hoosier? How do you do that?
I think it's having an open dialogue with him and having that conversation, even outside of this extension of things. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he said NFL is not for him, and he's excited to be there and build that program. And really, he has that amazing, from my viewpoint, chip on his shoulder. So you push into that and say, what do you need from across the board to be able to continue to not only have a high standard, but continue to grow that standard to what you envision this organization to be, and make sure you architect it together.
Now, I'm Coach Cignetti. I might walk out of the room on you right there, man.
Why?
I don't need no conversation. I just gave you a national champ. What do we need to talk about? I got the $93 million right here. Thank you. I appreciate it, right? That's going to help me stay. But for me, I want more than that, right? I want complete say over everything. And I'm not even just the college football level, right? If y'all planning new bathrooms, I want to know about it, all right? I want my admissions for my next 5 generations, for my grandkids, okay? I'm dead and gone. I want my kids to be able to say, hey, we don't got to worry about it. We didn't get into Michigan, but we got free admission to Indiana. You know why? Because my great granddad won the Met title right up there. That's the type of stuff that you say, you know what? I want this guy to retire a Hoosier. You offer that and I stay.
So you're basically saying, hey, rip up this 8-year deal. We're starting from scratch. And I want $500 million. Let's go.
No, the money is not that important. The $500 million, because at that level, the expectations are going to be higher. I love the 893, so don't rip it up. No, don't rip it up. Just add an amendment page, right? Just put some more stuff in there that makes me stay, and I'll be wearing this maroon for you forever.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, we have to have a conversation about that. It's just not blank check and blank sheet. Like, I mean, you want to be the AD now? Like, what are we talking about?
I wanted you to be the AD, but I never told you I was not going to be Cignetti. I want to know. I want to know what you thought, right? Now, you're absolutely right. I kid, but you're right. A conversation you definitely needs to be had. Now, I feel like if you definitely do that, he comes back. But
I'm basically
what's going to get him to stay beyond just tell him you love him?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's me and you. I'm the AD.
Yeah.
You're the head football coach. We are now tied and conjoined at the hip.
Yeah.
How do we progress this forward? How do we go to the board of trustees and all the higher ups above us that we quote unquote report to, which is a small number of people? Let's go say, hey, this is what we discussed. This is what we are presenting. And this is how we would like to move forward for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 decades.
100%. I'm right beside you. As long as on the next page it says that I get my grandkids gets free admissions for forever. I want this legacy to know that I gave you something special, so now you give me something special. And I feel like those type of incentives and kind of like bonuses will help keep a guy like that, at your university for a very, very long time. The money matters, but also that love of and appreciation. I feel like that goes a long way.
Sounds like you want a G550. Is what you're saying, unlimited hours.
I mean, listen, now you're talking. Now, if I'm the coach, I'm definitely staying. You got the G550. My grandkids are taken care of. I got the $93 million. Let's go win a national championship. Let's go win another one. Let's go win another one.
So my question for you then would be, you have Indiana, and I think that's a different model. You have LSU, and I think that's a different model. You're saying the methodical, build through the portal, transfer older heads, more experience is the way to go.
New rules, you got to change things up. And Indiana's proven that if this is how we're going to operate, because guess what? Maybe that levels the playing field. You got to go get older guys. If you want to level the playing field against these younger kids who are the more elite, probably athlete, because they're going to the bigger programs, maybe you go get the older guy. I don't know, but Indiana's given they've shown a blueprint of something. And if the rules allow you to do it, they're not breaking any rules. They're operating within those guidelines. I don't care how it looks on the surface, because they're operating within the rules, and they just won a national championship because they figured it out, right? I feel like I have no problem with it. I don't care. I have no problem with it because they're not breaking any rules.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with it and not breaking any of the rules. And also, there's a concept, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. But also, you have the ability to say, and I could be wrong with this, and I'm okay if I am, but did Indiana just hit one of those moments in times where all the stars align? And why I say that, redshirt years, multiple COVID years. Do you see that happening again? And being able to have the average age of 23. Average age of 23. I got drafted, if I'm not mistaken, age of 21 turning 22. So like that average age of 23, that's a massive, massive advantage. Like playing against 19-year-old kids, 20-year-old kids, like I got 3 years of experience on that. I don't know if that's sustainable.
Maybe not. It may not be sustainable from you're not going to maybe turn out the best NFL athletes because you're already entering the league at such a raw age.
You don't care about the NFL. You care about college football and being the best there. Like that's their own problem. And really, honestly, you may be making more money in college than you are if you were to go pro. Because I mean, you're making $2 to $5 million bucks, or 500,000 to, or let's just say over $1 million bucks. I mean, league minimum is $750 if you're and then if you're on practice squad, much less.
Yeah, I don't know if it's sustainable to answer your question. I mean, I really don't. Maybe not. Which is why another reason why it was so special to see what they did and see their fan base turn out, because maybe even they smell like, hey, this is a once in a lifetime thing. You're looking at this whole thing. I'm thinking to myself like, God damn, Miami has a home field advantage. They're right down at Hard Rock Stadium, right there in Fort Lauderdale, right there. They have their home field advantage. And yet to see that Indiana Stadium feel like that, perhaps even the fans know that this is not sustainable, that it's a once in a lifetime thing. I think that I think there's a blueprint to it, though. And I'm counting on the coaching staff and the system, getting back to the whole program. I'm counting that they found something special. We'll see next year. If they pull it off next year and they get even close, I say yes. Okay.
No, that's interesting, man. We'll remain to be seen. I'm sure we'll have plenty more conversations about it.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Listen, well, I tell you this before I give it back to you, because you're the College Hall of Famer here, not me. Looking at it from a business standpoint, these kids coming out, right? You're Fernando Mendoza. You just won a national championship. You're going to have all types of NIL money coming at you, right? How are you operating right now if you're a guy like that? The attention's on you. The NFL's calling. Like, how are you operating over these next few months leading into the draft, from a business standpoint? What are you getting in line?
Yeah, from a business aspect, I would love to be able to work with a guy like this and be able to sit down and create as I call it, focal points of where his North Star is, but then ultimately the pros and cons of staying in college or going pro. And again, what's your ultimate ambition? That is the leading, again, North Star. And then let's sit down in a room, close-knit, family, friends, whatever your dynamic is in your particular life, and walk through those particular pieces and architect that, build this culture and understanding of where you want to be. I think that's key. And that to me is really where it gets fun.
Yeah. Are you bringing any family members on as your agent representation or anything like that?
I mean, I think everybody's situation is
different. It's a trend, right? People do it now.
It is a trend. And my thing is, I could care less of who the person is as long as they're of quality and they're being able to execute and provide the value that I need. I mean, I look at it I brought my sister in on my marketing deals since day one, and she was a part of those fees, but she earned those fees because she had the experience, the understanding of it, being a professional athlete herself, doing her own modeling gigs, so she had the expertise. Also had the ability to learn and understand, build relationships to where now, like, it's clockwork. We understand it. Plus, I get to cuss, yell, and scream at my sister. I don't get to do that with an agent. Vice versa. It's like, oh, I don't want to go do something because, oh, I think I'm big time. Oh, my sister's going to humble me. Like, no.
Have you had to do that though? Have you had to cuss and scream? Have you had to do that?
We got a good relationship from that standpoint. There's lots of mutual respect, but I mean, we're brother and sister too. So we've definitely had our feuds.
Yeah. I can imagine you getting upset at a marketing deal falling through and calling up somebody and yelling and screaming. But I can't imagine that, man, because you're such a nice guy. People who don't know you, they come and say, hey, what's Ndamukong Suh like? I said, man, don't let that mean thing feel like this dude is like one of the nicest guys ever, right? I can't imagine you doing that.
Hey, man, for sure nice, but we're definitely shrewd from a business perspective.
Yeah. Nice, except for on Thanksgiving when the Detroit Lions are playing.
And the Cowboys. They shouldn't even be.
We're starting 2026 off the same way we left it. The Cowboys Lions feud.
They shouldn't even be on Thanksgiving, as you said.
No, another episode. I can't wait. I can't wait till we talk coaching, NFL coaching. That's another episode, but that'll be something special.
Oh,
talk
yeah,
Cowboys, how long Brian Schottenheimer has. How about that?
Yeah. Not too much longer, I don't think. Looking rough over there, boss. Well, appreciate you, Jabari, man. This has been great for you joining No Free Lunch, and we'll talk here soon.
Appreciate it, Sue.
All right, boss.
The information provided on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified financial and or legal professionals before making any legal or financial decisions or investments.
Man, a great conversation with our guy, Jabari. There's a lot of moving parts, whether it's coaches, players, all the above. But when is Congress and when is Washington going to step in and streamline this effect? I think it's continuing to be the wild, wild west. People are playing within the rules for the most part, as far as we know. But it's going to be interesting to see how things settle out and come together. Is there a big change? We will remain to be seen. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe right here to No Free Lunch on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.